bitter frustration of being caught out on strikes, being ejected from the ball game. It may have hurt his team later on. Sam Perlozzo, his third base coach, kept him from getting a suspension. And he's out of this ball game. Now, Andre Dawson, who's back in the ball game after a long layoff, drives in the decisive run with the sacrifice fly, Jerome Walton scoring the run that actually won the ball game. And now Mitch Williams picking up his 15th save with this final out that Berryhill clutches, and he tied a record set by all left-handed relief pitchers in Cubs history. That's what happened last night. Tonight, a cool night, a rainy night. There will be baseball. So stay with us as the Cubs face the Mets.
Cubs baseball is brought to you in part by Budweiser, Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. Your Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana Better Buick dealers. The great American road belongs to Buick. True Value Hardware. For quality selection and personal attention, make True Value Hardware your store of first choice. The Chicago Tribune, where you'll always get the freshest sports. Unical 76, who invite you to go with the spirit of 76. Pepsi, a generation ahead. Canon, proud to be the official camera of the Chicago Cubs. United Airlines, rededicated to giving you the service you deserve. Come fly the friendly skies. And Nissan, building cars for people who want more than just a means of getting from here to there. Nissan, built for the human race.
Hello again, everybody. With Steve Stone, I'm Harry Carey. We're at Chase Stadium, where the Cubs will try to make it 2 in a row against the New York Mets after beating them last night in a thriller 4-2.
And it's ironic that the Cubs are facing Dwight Gooden tonight because of the rain in Pittsburgh, because there is rain in the area, and Gooden goes to the mound tonight against Scott Sanderson. All of you know that Gooden is 17-3 against the Cubs, so Harry, hopefully we can break that tonight.
You know, we all talked about the 14 games in a row the Cubs had against the Cardinals and the Mets. They already are assured of a 500 mark for those 14 games because they already won 7 and lost 5. But let's raise it to 17 games because the next series after leaving New York tomorrow night is against Montreal, the team in second place.
And Davey Johnson really realizes the importance of this one. He has 8 left-hand hitters in the lineup against Sanderson.
All right, we'll be back with the lineups in a moment. Hello again, everybody. With Steve Stone and Dwayne Stats, Harry Carey at Chase Stadium in New York as the Cubs strive for their second victory in a row. Here are the lineups for the Cubs. Walton in center, Smith in left, Sandberg at second, Dawson in right, Berryhill catching, McClendon at first, Wilkerson at third, Dunston playing short, and Scott Sanderson will be on the hill. For the Mets, Dykstra in center, Jeffries at second, Magadan at third, Strawberry in right, Johnson the shortstop, Mazzilli at first, Wilson in left, Sasser the catcher, and Dwight Gooden, who's won 7 and lost 2, will be the pitcher. The umpires, Doug Harvey is working the plate, Frank Pulley at first, Greg Bonnet at second, and Tom Hagen at third. It's a cloudy and a wet and a cool night in New York. Around 25,000, 25 to 30,000 already in attendance. This series will conclude tomorrow night.
Dwight Gooden on the mound tonight. When the Cubs faced him in Chicago, he went 5 innings, giving up 7 hits and 5 earned runs. That was the good news. The bad news was he beat the Cubs one more time to run his lifetime record to 17-3 against them and his lifetime ERA to 3.25. When you look at his record and realize that as such a young man, he is 98-37 lifetime, 61 games over 500. The numbers he's put on the board have absolutely been phenomenal. And when you also consider that Warren Spahn won 363 games and didn't win one game before he was 25 years old, you can understand the promise that the career of Dwight Gooden holds.
Boy, I should say, the thing that's hard to realize, here he is, a 6-year veteran, a winning pitcher every year, and he's only 24 years old. And he won't be older than 24 till after the season is over. And he will have piled up another 20 victories to his total, which right now is 98. Here's Jerome Walton to lead it off. First pitch of the ball game. Line drive, base hit, left field. Gooden does not have to worry about a no-hit game. Jerome Walton continues his flight of hitting with a line single to left.
First ball fastball, and Walton jumped on it. And now the Cubs can take advantage of something that Dwight Gooden doesn't do particularly well, and that's hold on base runners. Plus, he's got Mackey Sasser behind the plate, and Sasser gets rid of the ball slowly. So if there's one way you can take advantage of Gooden, it might be trying to run on him tonight.
Dwight Smith, who beat out 2 beautifully placed drag bunts last night. There's a lead by Walton. There goes a runner, swung on, a bouncing ball. He's out at first base, but Walton has reached second. Boy, if Jeffries had have broken for the bag, that would have been a base hit. But then that's, of course, why Hojo Johnson was covering.
Johnson now coming in to talk with Dwight Gooden about what set of signals he uses with a man at second base. Shortstop wants to know when a breaking ball is coming.
Gooden was the only winner in Chicago. He's had a tremendous lifetime record against the Cubs, 17-3, I think it is. Here's Sandberg hitting .304. Curveball, a little bit outside, ball 1.
Dwight Gooden has taken to throwing a lot more breaking balls early in the ball game. It used to be fastball city for about 5 innings, then he'd go to the breaking ball. But now he's establishing his curveball early and getting most of them over the plate.
Ground ball. Shortstop throws him out. And here's Dawson with Walton at third and 2 away. For a moment, Walton hesitated, was almost caught in no man's land, but he advanced to third on the play. Dawson, who drove in the decisive run last night with a sacrifice fly, will be the hitter. Gooden is 17-3 against Chicago in his lifetime. And he missed the fastball. The wind is blowing more towards the left field wall, out of the right field corner. Runner at third, 2 out. Dawson hitting .296. A high pop foul out of play. He's in the hole on 2.
Gooden has thrown 5 wild pitches this year. But odds are Dwight Gooden, being a high fastball pitcher, will try to go a little higher than high out of the strike zone with Dawson. Sasser's not the best in the league at blocking low pitches. So let's see if Dwight goes way up and out of the zone.
0-2 the count. Foul tip. Just barely ticked the ball foul.
That one got Mackey Sasser right in the stomach, as Dawson just barely stayed alive.
beat the Cubs twice this year without a defeat, twice last year without a defeat, 17-3 during the career. A bouncing ball. Nice play by Jeffrey in time to retire the side. So the leadoff hit is wasted. We go in the bottom of the first, no score.
Sport.
We go in the bottom of the first, no score in the ball game. Scott Sanderson is on the hill. Sanderson won 6 and lost 4.
Scott Sanderson going to the mound for the 12th start of the year, but his first against the Mets. Scott lifetime is 10-11 against New York. His ERA at 3.79. And he's appeared in 30 games against them. Last time out against St. Louis, he pitched a brilliant game, losing 1-0, but going 8 innings, giving up just 4 hits, but the 1 earned run that did him in because Jose De Leon didn't give the Cubs anything in 8 innings. Scott's facing New York for the first time in a starting role since September of 1987.
The Cubs announced today they have signed 23 of the players they selected in this year's June free agent amateur draft. One of the players they signed is the second baseman Randy Saunders out of Tampa, Florida, Hillsborough Community College. His brother is already a member of the Cubs, pitching in Peoria, where he has a great record. Left-handed pitcher, 8-1. Here's Dykstra. Fastball outside.
There won't be any appeal tonight for Len Dykstra. He's not going to have Tom Hallion to yell at because Hallion's at second base. So the man making the appeal tonight will be Greg Bonnet at third.
1 ball, no strikes. That evens it up, a ball and a strike. He was trying to place that ball in the left field. The Giants won the only game played this afternoon. They walloped Atlanta 10-1. Sitting in the club box for the Cubs is Don Zimmer's daughter, Donna, and her family. We'll show them to you in a moment. There they are. There's a high fly ball. Who's going to get it? Jerome Walton is there, but Dunston goes out and grabs it. Nice play. Sean Dunston took charge and made a one-handed catch. 1 away.
This is a night where the infielder is going to have to be on their toes because the wind is blowing in. Scott Sanderson does throw a lot of pop-ups and fly balls, and it's going to blow the ball back toward the infield. Dunston, among the league's best, is going out and tracking down those pop-ups. Just made a good play.
1 out. Here's Greg Jeffries, the second baseman. A little bit inside. Doug Harvey missed last night's game because of a sprained ankle. There's a good fastball. Strike call. 1 ball, 1 strike, 1 out. Right to McClendon. Wall sharply hit. Easy out. Once he fielded it. 2 gone. And here's Dave Magadan hitting .310 for the year.
Sometimes facing a lineup with 8 left-handed hitters in a row is an advantage to a pitcher because you don't have to look at any mix between right and left-hand hitters. Sanderson will be zeroing in on the outside corner to most of these left-handers because it's going to be very difficult to hit the ball out in left field.
Fastball outside to Magadan, who hits the ball to all fields. A good hitter, this fellow.
That's the sentiments of the fans in New York. Keith Hernandez, Gary Carter, both due back around the All-Star break.
Now the pitch a little low. Magadan, 26 years old. 2 balls, no strikes, 2 out. Ball 3 outside. And Darryl Strawberry is next. 3 balls, no strikes. 2 out, nobody on. Right down the middle, above the knees, 3-1.
The Cubs have done a methodical job on the road, and they've increased their winning percentage to the point where they now are the 2nd best road club in the National League, behind only the Houston Astros.
3-1 pitch. He walked the ball 4. And that brings up Strawberry.
Number 18.
He's 3 out of 18 this year against the Cubs pitching. One of his 3 hits being a home run. Well, I'm looking at this list of free agents that the Cubs have signed up. There's a curve strike call. One's a right-hand pitcher out of the University of New Haven. If you can go by a name, this kid ought to be a star. Steve DiBartolomeo. Sounds like a great Italian song.
Got a chance to be a pretty good pitcher here. I think he's the man who was 17-2.
He was with a 193 batting average, 1.93. One ball, 1 strike. Magadan, average speed. A high pop fly. Wilkinson backing out in foul territory. Makes the catch to retire the side. At the end of 1, there is no score. Carey back at the ballpark at Shea Stadium in New York. And here's Damon Berryhill to lead it off. Each team put a man on base. And at first, neither team scored. Gooden's curveball is low. 1 ball, no strikes.
Berryhill's been a much better hitter from the right side, hitting .314 as opposed to .267 as a left-hand hitter. Most of his RBIs and most of his pop, however, has been as a left-hand hitter.
There's a curve a little bit low. Ball 2. 2 balls, no strike.
This is where you get a fastball, and if he makes it a hittable fastball, Damon should have a good cut at it.
2 balls, no strike. Swing. And he misses. 2 balls and a strike. Montreal with Mark Langston pitching a shutout. Won his game at St. Louis last night. Foul back. So they're still only half a game behind the Cubs. After this series ends here tomorrow night, Cubs moving to Montreal for 3 games. Ball 3 outside. 3-2.
It's hard to believe, but here on June 14th, the Mets are merely a .500 ball club. You'd have expected this team to be running away and hiding at this point, but they haven't played consistent baseball.
Struck him out. Berryhill goes down swinging. That's the first strikeout for Gooden.
The first baseman, number 10.
That brings up Lloyd McClendon. He's hit 3 of his home runs against the Mets. 7 out of 19 against Met pitching. He's hitting .343 all told. 6 homers, 17 RBI. Fastball a bit inside. Gary Scott, one of the youngsters the Cubs have signed up as a result of drafting him. He played third base at Villanova. He led in homers with 20 and RBIs with 83. Runs scored 78. Hits 95. There's a high fly ball. Will be caught short center field. And Dykstra has it. McLendon flies to Dykstra. 2 out. Here's Kurt Wilkerson.
A couple of Dwight Gooden's years were absolutely phenomenal. His first year in the National League, he fanned 276 men. The next year, he fanned 268 men, and that's the year that Gooden went 24-4 in 1985 with the Mets with a 1.53 ERA. Since those 2 years, however, the strikeouts have been down, but not the winning percentage.
Now the pitch, here it is. Fastball, a strike call. Seems to me that people who worry about that worry about something that's not necessarily a bad development. As he gains experience and knows how to pitch better, he's finding out he can get hitters out as well as strike him. Swings and he misses. And instead it takes at least 3 pitches before he can strike a guy out. If you can give it out on the first or second, you're saving a little bit over the 9 innings play. Because there's nothing wrong with his effectiveness. 2.63 earned run average.
Well, there's no doubt, Harry, he's getting smarter with every passing year, and he's realizing just what you said. If you can throw a first ball fastball on the outer third, you might get a ground ball to second base. And there's the man who tutors Dwight Gooden, Mel Stottlemyre, the pitcher coach.
Here's the pitch outside. 3-2. The Cubs forcing him to make some pitches. 3-2. Walked him. Ball 4. He's had 3-2 on every hitter this inning, and he finally walks Wilkerson. Here's Dunston, who hit that tremendous home run to tie up the ball game in the 5th inning last night with 2 out.
The one thing that is troubling about the year of Dwight Gooden is the fact that in 13 previous starts he hasn't been able to complete a game. But when you have Randy Myers in the bullpen, that's not necessarily a bad thing either.
There goes a runner. Oh, he had a tremendous jump. It's a shame that Dunston swung at that one. Wilkerson was running. I think Gooden forgot all about him.
Well, Harry, he just has some problems holding base runners, and I think the Cubs are doing themselves a disservice. They've got a running situation with Sasser behind the plate, Gooden on the mound, and they keep swinging at the pitch where they're running. You don't have to hit and run in this situation. You just as soon him steal, and then you lead off with Gooden and not the pitcher. You lead off with Dunston, rather.
Again, he takes a half swing and fouls it off into the stands, and he's in the hole now, 0-2. The Cubs lead Montreal by half the game. They're 4 ahead of the Cardinals and the Mets, who are in an identical tie for 3rd place. Both teams at 500, 30 and 30. Throw over to first, runner back.
Dave Johnson called 1 pitch out yesterday. Might just try another one right here.
Gooden's delivery. There goes Wilkerson. Swung and he struck him out. He had a great jump again. And Dunston goes down swinging. We go into the bottom of the 2nd, no score. With Steve Stone, Harry Carey back at Chase Stadium, we go in the bottom of the 2nd, no score.
Scott Sanderson's going to have to worry about Howard Johnson because he's the man who's been red hot for the Mets. 4 home runs his last 6 games. So far, a lot of people overlooking Howard Johnson in the All-Star balloting. But Johnson figures he deserves to be there, and he's getting a little support.
Three of his 15 homers have been against the Cubs pitching. Drove in the run last night. Switch hitter. Fastball a little bit low and outside, ball 1.
11 of Johnson's home runs have come from the left side. That's where he's much more powerful. The batting average, however, a little bit higher as a right-hand hitter.
1 ball, no strike. That evens the count, a ball and a strike. I know my limitations, Arnie. I can't drown out the airplane. I'm loud, but not that loud. 1 ball, 1 strike. A high pop fly, and Dunson's getting it now. Wilkerson calls for it. It looked like Dunson lost the ball. It was hit so high.
That's unusual. Usually Sean Dunson calls everybody off, but the wind is pushing the ball closer toward the third base bag. And here you can see Dunston give ground because Wilkerson's standing right there, and he makes the play. A lot of pop-ups with Sanderson on the mound, a lot of fly balls, and this is a good night to give up some pop-ups and fly balls. It's going to be hard to hit the ball out of the park.
You can see why Howard Johnson hits so many home runs. He's got a natural loft to his swing. He doesn't actually undercut everything, but just enough of the loft to drive the ball a long way in the air. There's a slow curve strike call.
Also, Harry, Howard Johnson has taken advantage of a lot of the new training techniques that baseball is enjoying these days. He's worked very hard on the Nautilus and free weights. He's a much stronger man now than when he started his career with Detroit.
A little low. 1 ball, 2 strikes. There's Howard Johnson right there. Hojo, they call him here, next to Doc Gooden. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Fouled it out of play. Lee Mazzilli, a veteran, 34 years old.
Mazzilli, with only 25 at-bats this year, hasn't been given a lot of play. But he's getting a chance tonight, and this is the only way to keep your pinch hitters sharp, is to give them 4 at-bats every now and then, so when you call on them late in the game, they've got a little groove to their swing. Otherwise, they're not going to hit very well off the bench.
Defies all superstition with the number 13 on his back. A little low ball. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 1 out, nobody on. Bottom of the second, no score. Line drive. He waited for that slow curve, and he really drilled it hard to center field. That's their first hit. Mazzilli singles to center.
Veteran hitters sometimes will guess pitch with a pitcher, and if he's guessing off-speed pitch, he's not going to shift his weight forward. He's going to make sure he keeps his hands back, and that's the way to hit the slow breaking ball. That's exactly what Mazzilli did that time. The foot went forward, but the hand stayed back, and he drove the ball into center field.
There's Mookie Wilson. 4 out of 31 for the year against the Cub pitchers. 1 home run included. Overall, he is hitting 192 for the year, 3 homers, 13 runs batted in. Dykstra, Jeffries, Magadan, Strawberry, Johnson, Mazzilli, Wilson, and Sasser all hit left-handed. He swung and he missed. That's 8 of the 9 starters batting left-handed against Sanderson.
Clennon's going to have to be careful. If Scott does throw the slow breaking ball, Mack doesn't want to come off the bag too far because Wilson will go down the first baseline.
Outside, ball 2. 2 balls and a strike.
Lee Mazzilli used to be very fast, but he's only stolen 1 base this year. He hasn't been caught yet, and a lot of that early speed has left him.
1 out, 1 on. Runner back. Bill Robinson, the first base coach, talking to Mazzilli. 2 balls and the strike. He had a cut, and that evens it up 2-2 as he fouls it off.
I like what Bill Robinson did when the club was in California. He met with Greg Jeffrey's father. Jeffrey's father always tutored him in hitting, and they had opposing views on how he should hit. And Robinson met with his dad. They talked it out and said they had one common goal, and that was to get Greg on the right track at the major league level. They resolved their differences, and hopefully, for the Mets' sake, Jeffries will start hitting the baseball hard again.
There's a pitch, fouled out of play. You know, it was his dad, Jeffrey's dad, who devised the operation of swinging a bat in the swimming pool.
Really helps you in the rain.
I imagine that it's designed to make his hands quicker. 2 balls, 2 strikes. There's a line drive. Walton on the run makes a sensational catch. Fine play by Jerome Walton. 2 men out. Mookie Wilson hit that ball right on the button.
Don Zimmer said before the ball game that although Doug DeCenzo played a great center field, he cannot outplay Jerome Walton. And he said the balls that Doug was diving for, Jerome Walton catches while staying on his feet. Here's an example of a great play that Walton made. He's very fast and he gets a good jump. And he kept Sanderson out of a lot more difficulty on that play.
Here's Mackey Sasser. Mackey the 9th Sasser. There's a drive way back. It is a foul ball. Just inches foul. Down the line. Sasser looking down there. And so is Bill Robinson, the first base coach. But it's just a long foul ball.
Frank Pulley on the call, and he's straddling the line, and he's got a good look at this. That ball is just foul. It's hard to tell by that angle, but Frank Pulley had a good look at it. He's even sporting glasses now to get a better look at it.
Sasser, S-A-S-S-E-R, spelled backwards. It comes out Ressass. 0-1 the count. Boy, he got out in front on that ball and hit it a ton, but foul. He swung hard again.
Mackey came up with the San Francisco Giants and could always hit. There was no doubt about that. They tried him in a few different positions, but finally settled on him behind the plate. This is his 3rd ball club. And he and Barry Lyons have a platoon system behind the plate.
Drove the first running back. The most home runs he ever hit in any one year was 14. That was at Fresno in Class A. Probably grown a lot since then. He's a big kid. Throw over there. He's back. Lee Mazzilli, runner at first. 0-2 the count. Slow curve outside and high. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
It's a good time for Scott to throw a high outside fastball. Sasser looks like he's trying to pull everything, and he won't be able to catch up with that one.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Foul down the third base line, a slow curve. He did a double take on that one and almost got it fair down the third base line. So he's missed an extra base by inches down the right field line and by inches down the left field line.
And Harry, the Mets are starting to wait on the breaking ball of Sanderson. Wilson did it, Mazzilli did it, and now Sasser just misses a double on the slow breaking ball. So Scott's going to have to mix in his hard breaking ball along with that lively fastball.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Check him out. 1 man left. At the end of 2, no score. Harry Carey back at Shea Stadium, no score. We go in the top of the third. And leading it off will be Sanderson. He's had 2 out of 21 as a hitter this year. Don Zimmer's daughter, Donna, with her family watching the ball game in the Cub box. And I think Donna's mother and Don's wife, Soot, is watching the game at their home in Florida. There's a happy family. Strike call. 0-2 on Scott Sanderson. Struck him out on 3 pitches. Strikeout number 3 for Gooden. Here's the leadoff man, Jerry Walton. Started the game off with a line single to left, hitting .290 for the year.
If Jerome is thinking about a bunt tonight, he'll have to realize that Gooden is one of the most agile pitchers in the league. Magadan in fairly close to third, but there's room on the right side.
He tried to hit the right field on that one, fouled it off. Philadelphia, Pittsburgh. Philadelphia leading 1-0 in the third. Montreal and St. Louis about to start. Fastball inside. That evens it up. A ball and a strike. New York and Baltimore, no score in the American League. Detroit and Boston likewise. Seattle 3, Minnesota nothing in the first in Minnesota. Curveball low, ball 2. Jerome Walton. Ground ball, shortstop. Johnson throw in time. 2 up, 2 down. And here's Dwight Smith. Bounced out his first time.
It's a very good article in the New York papers about the fact that you have to beware when you trade with the Mets, because they highly publicize their minor league players, then they package them in a deal, and suddenly they don't turn out to be major league prospects.
That's the old Los Angeles Dodgers routine.
Same philosophy.
There's a pitch a little bit low.
But they get the value way up, and the 4 players they traded to San Diego for Kevin McReynolds. Probably the only player that's worked out has been Kevin Mitchell, and now he's starring with the Giants.
There's a fastball, a strike ball. Smith, 10 out of 20 against the Met pitching with 2 home runs. Line base hit in the left center field. Dwight is on with 2 out, and that brings up Ryne Sandberg.
What I like about Dwight Smith, when he gets a base hit, he never takes for granted the fact it's only going to be a single. He goes down to first very aggressively, takes a wide turn, and if there's any bobble or any lethargy on the part of the outfielder, he's going to go for 2. Dykstra comes over, gets to the ball quickly, and realizes he better get it back in, because Dwight Smith has taken about a 20 or 25-foot turn at first.
Here's Sandberg hitting .304, bounced out his first time up. Throw over the first. Smith very fast. He doesn't utilize his speed so much to steal bases yet, but he's sure good going from first to third or first to home. He's back.
Quite stolen a base. He's been caught twice. And if the Cubs are planning to run, then you have to have the hitter behind him take a pitch or 2. They've run twice. Both times the ball fouled off.
Again the throw. Close, but he's back. Lee Mazzilli to first baseman.
Take a look at the move again. And I think the Cubs would be wise to talk to Frank Pulley about the leg motion to Dwight Gooden. He broke his back leg before going to first, and they've called some of the Cub pitchers on that this year. Your first move has got to be striding to first. If you do anything with the back leg at all, that's a balk. And Gooden almost got Dwight Smith that time because most runners will key off the back leg.
Fastball inside, ball one. One ball, no strikes. Gooden is fan free. He's allowed 2 hits. The throw over to first. In the game, Gooden won in Chicago 10-5. Again the throw. He pitched only 5 innings. And he was behind when he left the ball game. Take that back. The inning he went, he pitched the 5th inning, otherwise he wouldn't have got a victory. He allowed 7 hits and 4 runs. Inside, ball 2. 2 balls, no strike.
Gooden has balked 4 times this year. So they've caught him on the mound a few times. Now we might see Dwight Smith taking off here. First, he'll have to watch the quick move of Gooden at first.
There he goes. Swung on, popped up. Short center, right field, going to be caught. Jeffries, he misses it in foul territory. It looked like he shied away from something. I don't know whether he thought he was going to collide with Strawberry or what.
He had plenty of room, and the play is all his because Mazzilli gives up. Strawberry's not there, and Jeffries just doesn't come over far enough. So he should have made that play, and the Cubs get a break. Sandberg's got another life.
2 balls and a strike. They haven't called it an error. But certainly he should have caught the ball. Dwight Smith back to first base.
Might have hurt himself on that steal, Harry. Right now he's kind of stretching things out at first. Sometimes guys will do that, trying to lull the pitcher into a false sense of security and take off on the next pitch.
Oh, not Dwight. He wouldn't do that. There he goes. Swung on, a base ground ball. He's throw to first base for the out. With the runner going, Sandberg bounces out. Magadan to Mazzilli. We're going to the bottom of the 3rd, still no score. Harry Carey and Steve Stone. We're going to the bottom of the 3rd, no score. Dwight Gooden, a pretty good hitting pitcher. He's 5 out of 31 for the year. Will lead it off. That's a 161 batting average. "24 years old, in his 6th year as a regular pitcher in the major league." Swung and he missed. Curveball a little bit outside. Gooden still lives in St. Petersburg, Florida, born in Tampa. Big kid, 6'3", 205 pounds. Ground ball, sharply hit to Wilkerson. He's got it over to first. 1 away. Ball was hit sharply.
Dwight Gooden just accomplished something that no other Met has been able to do, and that's hit the ball on the ground.
Center fielder, Lenny Dykstra.
1 out. Here's Dykstra. Popped up his first time. Seattle leading in Minnesota 4-0 in the 1st. Wilkerson plays him shallow at 3rd. out of side first base in the right field corner. Lenny Dykstra was kicked out of the ball game, and it might have hurt his team later on. He was ejected in the 5th inning last night.
Then when the Cubs scored in that inning, Harry, you remember a double that went to left center field off the bat of Walton, and Lee Mazzilli fell down on the play. Mookie Wilson had to shift over to center. Wilson might have had that ball in left field had Dykstra been in the game to play center.
Curve is outside. 1 ball, 1 strike. Dykstra batting .272 for the year. 2 homers, 11 RBIs. 1 ball, 1 strike.
If you're not a home run hitter, you've got to have more walks than strikeouts, and it's held true with Dykstra. He's walked 22 times. He's fanned only 14 times in 151 at bats.
Two balls and a strike. There's a drive. That ball way back, might be out of here. There is a home run. Dykstra homered over the right field wall.
7th home run given up by Scott Sanderson, and only the 3rd home run this year by Len Dykstra, who's now knocked in 12. Andre Dawson with a valiant effort. He just came up a little short.
Watch it again. He crushes a fastball.
The fastball out over the plate, and Dawson thought he might have had a shot at this ball. He goes back to the wall. It's a sinking line drive. Andre gets back there quickly enough. He leaps and just misses this one. He's well over the wall.
There's a pitch in there, a strike ball. I tell you, Dykstra's proven to me he's a great fastball hitter. It seems like every time he hits one hard, it's a fastball. Here's Jeffries. 2 balls, no strikes, 1-0 in favor of the Mets. A high pop foul. Might stay in play. Nope. Atop the Cub dugout. Almost landed in Don Zimmer's box next to the dugout where his daughter Donna and her family. Two balls and a strike. Ground ball foul.
Through all the trials and tribulations of Greg Jeffries, his manager Dave Johnson kept saying he's never seen a man with a purer stroke from both sides of the plate, and eventually he figures he's going to come around. Jeffries had such a great year last year with New York, hitting .321 in 109 at bats.
Fooled him with a changeup that time, a slow curve, but he fouled it off. Beat the Cubs 4-3, pitching 7 innings. There's a ground ball foul. That was on April the 20th here in New York. Then he beat them in Chicago last week, 10-5, pitched only 5 innings. And he has a lead here today, 1-0 in the 3rd. Bouncing ball. Sandberg. 2 out. Jeffries rolls to Sandberg. Here's Magadan. Walked his first time up.
Dave Magadan.
For the longest time, Dave Magadan has been a man without a position on this team. He can play a little third, but that belongs to Howard Johnson. He plays some first, and certainly when Hernandez is healthy, that's his position. He can play in the outfield, but the Mets outfield is solid, so Magadan now getting a chance to play.
There's the strike ball. The last time that Doc Gooden lost to the Cubs was in August of 1987. He's won 17, lost 3. He's made 23 starts before tonight, had 10 complete games, 3 of them shutouts. Now ball to McClendon. He's got his steps on the bag. 1 run, 1 hit. Dwayne will be joining Steve in a moment. Harry Carey from Shea Stadium at the end of 3. The Mets lead 1-0.
Moving into the 4th, it's a 1-0 contest. The New York Mets out in front with Steve Stone and our producer-director Artie Harris. This is Dwayne Stats. Lenny Dykstra can be a thorn in the Cubs' side, and he belted one out.
The Cubs have been their own worst enemy as far as stolen bases are concerned. 4 times they've run, they haven't taken a pitch yet. And that's the only way to beat Dwight Gooden, is try to steal a victory from him.
So on to the 4th we go, and Andre Dawson, who made a great effort at attempting to bring back Dykstra's home run. A big swing and a miss by Andre. Strike 1. 3 strikeouts and a walk for Gooden tonight. Andre drove in a run with a sacrifice fly last night. That put the Cubs out in front 3-2 as they went on to win it 4-2. He pops this one foul out of play. 2 strikes the count on Andre. The Cubs have 2 hits. Walton's first inning single. And a base hit by Dwight Smith in the 3rd. A chop to 3rd. Magadan fields it, and the throw in time. Magadan to Mazzilli. Dawson is the first out in the 4th.
Dave Johnson knows when he employs this lineup, he's giving up a little defense to get some offense. Magadan does not play third particularly well. Elster, their fine defensive shortstop, is sitting on the bench, nursing a batting average just over 200. But he felt it was worth the gamble with Gooden on the mound, 8 left-hand hitters against Scott Sanderson. And he felt he could sacrifice a little defense to try to produce some runs.
Damon Berryhill, who struck out in the 2nd inning, steps in. A little late there. Strike 1. Damon started the night at 284. One wide. A ball and a strike. Gooden beat the Cubs at Wrigley Field 10-5. This one fouled back. So the count is 1-2. And he is 17-3 lifetime against the Cubs. He gave up all 5 runs in his last outing against the Cubs in 5 innings. So it was not one of his better outings. Still, he got credit for the victory. Breaking ball and a line drive base hit into left center. Berryhill makes the turn at first, and Wilson gets the ball back into the infield. Hit number 3 for the Cubs.
There's one big difference about facing Dwight Gooden in Chicago and facing him here. They faced him in the daytime, Dwayne, and although he is very tough wherever you face him, his lifetime record much better under the lights than it is under the natural sunshine.
And here's Lloyd McClendon. McClendon popped to short center in the 2nd inning. Dykstra came in to handle that. A 1-out single for Berryhill. There's a breaking ball low. McClendon up around 380 in his last 13 games. And 10 RBIs in that stretch.
You hope when you face Dwight Gooden that he does throw you the breaking ball and miss with it early in the count, so you can get a good shot at that fastball.
There's a high fly ball back into right center field. Strawberry over there for this one, sets up and makes the catch. for the second out. So McClendon lifting one into right center is the second out. Berryhill still at first. And Curtis Wilkerson, who's playing in the place of Vance Law tonight at third base, will be the hitter. Wilkerson drew a walk in the second inning. 1-0 New York leading on the home run by Dykstra in the bottom of the third.
Vance had a tough night last night. 3 strikeouts, and Gooden is not a good man to try to break out of a slump again.
Wilkerson takes a strike. Heard with a look. There's Vance Law in the Cub dugout. Berryhill at first. 0-2 the count. Cubs start tonight with a half-game lead on the Montreal Expos in the National League's Eastern Division. Montreal tonight in St. Louis. 0-2 the count.
Periodically, Dwight Gooden in the spring will work on a changeup, but he's been a 2-pitch pitcher most of his career. It worked wonders for Bob Gibson, and Gooden's doing a good job with fastball and curveball.
He misses upstairs with a fastball, and the count is 1 ball, 2 strikes. He's all set. Wilkerson pulling away from this one as the count goes to 2-2. In that outing against the Cubs, when he gave up 5 runs, Gooden allowing more than 3 earned runs in a start for the first time this year. Wilkerson now goes to 3-2, a 2-2 breaking ball. So it's a 3 ball, 2 strike count on Curtis. Dunston on deck. Cool, overcast evening. And there's ball 4. He missed up with it. For the second straight time, he has walked Curtis Wilkerson. Berryhill moves into second. Two men on with 2 men out. Sean Dunston struck out swinging in the second inning. Hit that big home run last night to tie the game against Ron Darling. His first home run here in New York. He goes after the first one, lifting a high fly ball toward the right field line in the foul territory, and Strawberry runs out of room. Strike 1.
Sean can thank the wind on that ball. That ball started in fair territory, and the wind just kept pushing it into the seats. So Sean has another life. And his mother said to him about the home run last night she wasn't surprised because he always plays very well at home. He was just happy he finally hit that first home run. He's got a lot of friends in the ballpark tonight, and you know he wants to do a good job against this very tough right-hander.
He admitted to feeling some of the pressure and trying to justify being the #1 pick out of New York City a few years ago. Now he's trying to put that behind him. He fouls this one back. The pitch up. 2 strikes the count. And coming into the ball game, he had his average up to 219, and that is a marked improvement. He's been up around 350 the last week and a half. He's in the hole. 2 strikes. That pitch inside. A ball, 2 strikes.
Probably the most amazing thing, if you look at the career of Dwight Gooden, is the fact that even though he came into the league a very young man and a very hard thrower, he always had exceptional control. You don't find many guys with a 90-plus fastball that keep throwing strikes with it.
He misses here to go 2-2.
I think
now Sasser goes out.
I think he crossed up Sasser on that pitch. I think he was looking breaking ball, and he got that fastball away. Mackey kind of fought that ball, and no catcher likes to see a guy throwing that fastball when he's looking for something about 78 miles an hour and gets 190 plus.
Because there's no telling where he's going to get it. 2-2 the count. 2 men on with 2 men out in the 4th. Dunston rolls it to second. Jeffries grabs it and to throw to Mazzilli in time to take care of the Cubs in the 4th. No runs, a hit. 2 men left on base. We go to the New York half the 4th. Whoops, wait a minute. Wait a minute. The inning may not be over. The inning may not be over here on that 2-2 pitch. And the ground ball out to second. I don't know if time had been called or not.
I wonder if Doug Harvey might have called timeout before the pitch. I think he might have called a balk because there's runners still at second and third.
Somebody did, I think.
The runners staying where they're at least to this point. Gooden might not have hesitated on his stretch. It would be the 5th balk of the year, so he's done it before, and that's exactly what happened.
Yep.
Doug Harvey is calling the balk. Dunston gets another life, and here comes Dave Johnson, bad back and all, to try to find out what's going on.
So the pitch is a no pitch. And Dunston has another shot. A balk has pushed Wilkerson up to second and Berryhill up to third. And boy, you talk about a potentially big spot in this ball game. This is it, because Dunston not only gets another shot, but he gets a shot with 2 men in scoring position.
And you can see just when he set at the top, he had just come to the set position and then threw the ball. So Davey Johnson now talking to him about pretty much the same situation as last night, Dwayne. You got first base open. You've got a pitcher due up behind him. Last night, Bilecki, who was 1 for 24. Tonight, Scott Sanderson with only a couple of hits. And he's probably telling him, okay, you have 2 strikes on Dunston, but don't make a real good hittable pitch. Maybe he'll swing at something off the plate.
He's going to work from the windup. The 2-2. Dunston swings and he misses. He's out on strikes to retire the side. No runs, 1 hit. No errors with 2 left. And we head into the bottom of the 4th. 1-0 New York. He opens and takes an off-speed breaking ball in for a strike. Sanderson has given up 1 run tonight on the home run by Dykstra. A run on 2 hits. Wave and a miss. He was way out in front of the off-speed curve. 2 strikes the count on Darryl Strawberry.
Darryl hit his 200th home run last Friday night at Pittsburgh.
And he is out on strikes. He looks at a fastball. 2 breaking balls and a fastball, and he's out number 1 in the 4th. The Cubs continue to have great success against Darryl Strawberry this year. He is now 3 out of 20 against the Cubs, hitting 150 against them. One of those hits, however, a home run. And here's Howard Johnson. Speaking of home runs, he is 2nd in the league in home runs with 15. Playing shortstop tonight. He popped out his first time. Big breaking ball misses. Ball 1. Dunston shaded way over towards second base as they played Johnson to pull the ball. There's Sean in proximity to the bag at second. And he takes a strike. Dwight Smith in left, well off the line, about 90 feet, as the outfield is pulled around to the right side.
Sanderson does not want to have Johnson hit a fastball middle of the plate in. He starts him off with a slow hook and then a straight change.
Drills this one into right center field in for a base hit. Walton makes the pickup. And Johnson's going to go for 2, and he's going to make it. Howard Johnson with some aggressive base running pulls up at second with his 11th double.
Took advantage of the inexperience of Jerome Walton. Walton actually loafed on that ball when he got it. Had Walton gotten to the ball and gotten it back in quickly, Johnson couldn't have gone. Now watch it right here. He catches it, takes his time. And as he's taken his time, Johnson is going into second base. This could be a very costly mental error on the part of Jerome Walton.
It allows the Mets to place a man in scoring position with only one out and gives Lee Mazzilli a chance to drive in a run. Mazzilli lined a single into center in the second.
Dwayne, the major leagues teaches you a lot of lessons, and hopefully Jerome Walton will learn by that one and realize when you've got a fast base runner, you can't duck your head ever in the outfield.
Now Mazzilli takes a strike. To Sanderson in a spot in the fourth inning. Johnson, 28 years old, having himself another good year. One strike to count on the veteran Mazzilli. Turn pickoff play, and no tag as Dunston breaks to the bag.
The Mets right at 500. They're 6 over at home at 17-11, 6 under on the road.
Mazzilli at first base tonight with Magadan playing third. Johnson at short. A one-strike count. Breaking ball, and Harvey won't go for it. The count is 1-1. Doug Harvey calling the balls and strikes tonight after being out last night. There's the veteran National League umpire, Doug Harvey. Harvey suffered a sprained ankle Sunday in Houston. Had it examined, was late getting into New York. There's a ball high, and the count now 2-1 on Lee Mazzilli. Mookie Wilson is on deck. Mazzilli getting a rare start tonight. He's tough in this spot. Fouls this one back, and the count is 2-2. He had to pitch up, and the count squares.
Lee's always been able to hit. That's what's kept him in the league this long. He has a suspect glove in the outfield. And this was a surprising move by Dave Johnson to play him at first base. Give up a little defense, try to get some offense behind Dwight Gooden. And he knows at home at night, a couple of runs generally is enough with Gooden on the mound.
2-2 the count on Mazzilli. Howard Johnson at second with one gone. Long look by Sanderson. He's ready. And Mazzilli pops it. That's going to be out of play. A foul ball. So the count is still 2-2.
There was a lot of pressure on Lee Mazzilli when he came up with the New York Mets, being a local product. Everybody felt that he was going to be a perennial all-star. They likened him to Bobby Mercer, some of the other great players that played for the New York teams. And although he was a good player with the Mets, he was never the great player that everybody thought he was going to be. So very early in his career, they traded him away to Texas, and he's bounced around since then.
He brought the Mets Ron Darling and Walt Terrell.
And that's not too bad.
The 2-2. And a shot up the middle. Base hit into center. Johnson will score. Walton's throw cut off by McClendon. And the Mets pick up their second run. So Mazzilli, who can be tough, comes through in that situation. That's his 6th RBI of the year.
And the gamble by Dave Johnson paying off to this point. Lee Mazzilli with a couple of hits and an RBI.
So the Mets make it 2-0 as Howard Johnson crosses the plate. And here's Mookie Wilson. Wilson out in the second inning on a good play by Walton in left center field. So the Mets have a run. Wilson 0 for 1. Started the night hitting 192. And Sanderson throws a fastball by him, strike one. During this stretch in which he has struggled, Wilson has had problems catching up to a good fastball.
I think also, Dwayne, we talked about Mookie yesterday from the left side. He likes to swing at a lot of pitches head high, and he just cannot get around on those.
The 0-1, too low. blocked nicely by Damon Berryhill.
I think Mookie's production has really suffered by the fact that he doesn't get a chance to play a lot. There was a lot of talk about Wilson being traded to some various clubs around the league. But at his age and at his salary, only a few clubs could afford to take him on. And the Mets couldn't get back what they wanted in a trade. They wanted a top-line pitcher. They couldn't get one.
He's now 33 years old. Just gets a little piece of that one and is behind in the count 1-2. He hit .296 last year at 112 games with 8 home runs and 41 runs batted in, a lifetime average of .281. But he struggled in the early stages of this season, and now with the season better than a third gone, he's trying to make up some ground. The 1-2, breaking ball. Look out, Bill Robinson. A foul ball.
That's not where you want to throw Mookie Wilson, because he will drive that ball down the line. If Scott can throw that good high fastball away from Wilson, he'll strike him out. But an off-speed pitch is something that Mookie's hitting these days. In fact, it was a breaking ball that Wilson drove into left center field in the second inning, only to see Walton make a fine running catch.
Go to first on Mazzilli, who is back in. Wilson originally came up with the Mets in 1980. Originally drafted by the Dodgers, but he did not sign with Los Angeles. Throw to first. Mazzilli back in and drafted in '77 by the Mets. And by 1980 was in the big leagues. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Sanderson again goes over to first. Mackey Sasser on deck. 1 on, a run home, 1 out. 2-0 New York. This game's in the bottom of the 4th. Again over to first, and Mazzilli's back.
Is Lee starting to look a lot like Vince Coleman to Scott?
He's looking like somebody fast.
He's got 1 stolen base this year in 1 attempt.
High. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Don Zimmer and Dick Pole looking on.
Zim had to be ecstatic about winning that ball game yesterday. He knew that he was facing a tough customer today, and the first game of a series on the road is always a great way to start off, especially when you've got 3 cities coming up.
Runners going. The pitch swung on, skied into left for Dwight Smith, who makes the grab, and Mazzilli is on his way back to first. So on the 2-2 count, the Mets did start the runner, and Wilson flies to left. 2 outs with a man at first, and it brings on the catcher, Mackey Sasser.
Got a good look at Gary Carter in the Mets dugout. He's going through 3 hours of rehabilitation every day. For the first time the last couple of days, he's walking without any crutches at all. He's still got a brace on his knee, and he will start taking batting practice on Monday. They figure he'll be ready to go around the All-Star break along with Keith Hernandez.
Sasser waiting, and the pitch, he bunts it foul. Out of play, strike 1.
Not necessarily a great play with the pitcher due up next, but they have confidence in the fact that Gooden can swing the bat. Now you look at David Cone, and a pitcher's best friend, a catcher who knows how to call a ball game, Gary Carter.
Carter's thrown away the crutches, walking around, no limp. Sasser out in front, attacked that pitch, but was a little early. 2 strikes the count. Sasser originally with the San Francisco ball club. He was all set to go to LSU, and the Giants drafted him, and he signed with them.
Made him an offer he couldn't refuse, apparently.
And he is out on strikes to retire the side. The Mets pick up a run, 2 hits, and leave 1. At the end of 4, New York 2, Cubs nothing. On to the 5th inning, 2-0 New York. Cubs fell behind 2-0 last night. The same thing has happened here tonight. In the 5th, Scott Sanderson will lead off. Sanderson, then Jerome Walton and Dwight Smith. Sanderson, one of 4 strikeouts posted by Gooden tonight. And he throws a strike. Dunston has struck out twice, Sanderson once, and Berryhill the other one.
Becky Sasser said last night when Darling got the lead, he got defensive.
Tap by the mound. Jeffries at second, gloves it, double pumps and throws. He got him. He wasn't quite sure. When he first made the pickup on that ball, he had it in the very end of the web.
You can see he's got some problems.
Center fielder,
With Scott going down the line, you have some time. You can't do that with Dunston, however, or Dwight Smith, who are fast base runners. I don't think Gooden is going to get as defensive as Darling got last night with the lead. The Cubs are going to have to go out and try to get him.
I wouldn't count on it. Here's Walton. 1 out of 2 tonight. He takes the first pitch high, ball 1. Walton and Dunston are battling it out. There's a fly ball hit deep to left. Wilson goes back on the track and he makes the catch for the out. Walton drove it deep to left. Walton and Dunston, I think, are the leading candidates to win the Mr. T award for all the jewelry around their necks.
But the problem, Dwayne, wearing that much gold is the fact that because it's been plummeting lately, you see your net worth go down by leaps and bounds depending on the market.
Here's Dwight Smith now. He takes the first pitch in there for a strike. Smith also has broken out the jewelry, but not quite as much as Dunston nor Walton. Now Smith behind 0-2.
I'm a firm believer in the fact that it helps you keep your head down and right in the hitting area. You know, it's hard to really stand straight up when you're wearing chains like that.
Foul ball. However, defensively, it's another story. I can't imagine that it would help anyone pick up a ground ball. Or chase down a fly ball, you get all tangled in your jewelry. Gooden misses up and away.
Eddie Lyons, the scout of the Montreal Expos, very impressed with Dwight Smith, and especially his 2 bunts last night. He said they were just perfect.
He bounces this one to short. Howard Johnson with the throw to Mazzilli, and the Cubs are easy fare for Gooden in the 5th. 3 up, 3 down. Bottom of the frame coming. 2-0 New York.
America's favorite hometown, Mayberry, North Carolina. Check out your old friends. Barney Fife.
And Dwight Gooden bunting, and he's going to beat it out. Gooden surprising everybody. Beats out a bunt to open the bottom of the 5th inning. That's his 6th hit this year.
White was so excited about hearing about the Andy Griffith show, they decided to lay one down. So you'll see Andy Fife and Barney Fife, both of them, Opie and B, in one of television's classic comedies, The Andy Griffith Show. This summer of fun begins Monday night at 6 on Chicago's very own Channel 9.
So a leadoff bunt single for Gooden. And here's Lenny Dykstra. Dykstra lined a home run in the 3rd inning. He is 1 for 2. 2-0 New York. And the pitch is a strike at the knees. Sanderson now has given up 2 runs, 5 hits, striking out 3 and walking 1. Sanderson came up last year, came back from the back surgery, and then came to spring this year with increased velocity and has continued to improve physically off the surgery. With a bouncing ball right side, McClendon, nice play, and they get Gooden at second base on a fine play by McClendon, ranging to his right, grabbing the chopper, going down to Dunston. So McClendon continues to play well at first base.
Lloyd shows very good range to his right. This is a tough play, and if he doesn't cut it off, Gooden's going to be at second. So now they keep a Met out of scoring position.
And they have Dykstra at first with Jeffries at the plate. Dykstra with 13 steals and 14 attempts on the year. And you wouldn't be surprised to see him pick a pitch and run here.
I think they're going to try to take advantage of a slow delivery on the part of Scott Sanderson, although Scott has done a good job of trying to speed up that low leg kick that he's using now.
Toss to first on Dykstra, and he's back in. The Mets have 3 steals on the year against the Cubs, and they've been caught stealing 4 times. Dykstra far and away their most successful base stealer this year. Another toss to first, and he's back in. Dykstra has not attempted a steal against the Cubs this year, however. He's at first with 1 out. I'll be very surprised if he doesn't attempt one here. He started to go, stopped, and the pitch is a strike. Dykstra started to accelerate, but I don't think he was very happy with his jump.
I don't think Greg Jeffries is very happy with the fact that he took a pitch, especially a hittable pitch, and the runner just faked going, because now he's in a hole. And the second hitter has got to learn to be patient with the base runner out ahead of him. That's one of the duties of hitting number 2 in the batting order when you have a man hitting 1 who is a stealer.
There's a high drive hit deep to right center. Dawson back. Now Walton's over, and Walton makes the catch, and they're going to get a double play.
It's
Wait a minute. A balk has been called. Another balk. Another balk has been called in this game. Sanderson has been called for the balk. That'll be the second of the year charged to Scott. So down to second goes Dykstra. Well, Dykstra was rounding second and about halfway to third when Dawson had Walton cut in front of him to make the catch, but out of all that, a balk, so no pitch. So now the Mets get another opportunity the same way the Cubs did earlier in this game.
And Scott Sanderson would have been out of this inning with no further difficulties, because there was no doubt that Len Dykstra was going to be doubled up on the call. Don Zimmer can't believe it, but it was called very early, and Sanderson, thinking the man was going to run, did not hesitate at all, and it cost him a balk.
So the count on Jeffries is a strike, with Dykstra balked up to second base.
What a great position to be in as a hitter, Dwayne, because if you get a base hit, it counts. If you don't, you get another shot at it.
So Sanderson in a spot now, already down 2-0 to Gooden and the Mets. There's a foul ball back, and Jeffries had a vicious cut. 2 strikes the count. Oh, he really struggled early. But said last year, coming up for that final month and doing well, really helped him through the slow start this year, because he already knew that he had done it once.
Dave Johnson met with him the last day of the season and said, son, if you think you're going to hit 321 and the pitchers aren't going to adjust, forget it. You've got to come back next year and prove to them once again that you can hit, because they're going to be pitching you a lot of different ways to try to bring that batting average down. Jeffries never believed it would get down in the high 100s, however.
The 0-2 breaking ball, ground ball to short. Dunston will go to first out there, and on the play, Dykstra advances to third. So Jeffries is out, short to first, 2 gone, with Dykstra on third and Dave Magadan stepping in. Magadan has walked and grounded out. He came into the game at 310. Getting a lot of playing time now that Hernandez is out. Magadan against the Cubs this year, hitting .333. So Scott Sanderson not out of this jam yet. The pitch way high with that breaking ball. 1-0. The breaking pitch is something that Sanderson will stay with and attempt to establish that. That's a big part of his approach. 1-0 the count on Magadan. The delivery and a fastball in for a strike. Runs it to 1-1.
You don't have a particularly overpowering fastball, and Scott throws about 85, 86 right now, occasionally maybe 83 and 4. That slow curveball makes your fastball look a whole lot better. We've seen it tonight. After the off-speed breaking ball, we've seen a lot of Met hitters taking that fastball. It just sneaks up on them.
The 1-1. Breaking ball. He throws that one over for a strike and has the jump on Magadan. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Sanderson felt that he would not be completely recovered from back surgery until about the middle of this year. And we're moving in on that here, the middle of June right now. He's ahead of Magadan. And a fly ball into left. Smith will have to go back to get this one. Should be caught, and is. And that retires the side. No runs, 1 hit, 1 left. So the Cubs get out of it. And through 5, the score 2-0 New York. 5 from Shea Stadium with the Mets leading the Cubs 2-0. With Steve Stone and Artie Harris, Dwayne Stantz from Shea Stadium. Middle game of this series. Cubs and the Mets play again tomorrow, and then the Cubs move on to Montreal and Pittsburgh before they return home to Wrigley Field against Montreal for a Friday afternoon game on the 23rd. Our next telecast, by the way, will be Friday night at 6:30 from Montreal. Here's Ryan Sandberg leading it off and taking a strike. Rhino 0 for 2. A couple ground balls against Gooden tonight. One to short and the other one to third. St. Louis has taken a 1-0 lead on the Expos. The count is now 1-1. Montreal batting in the top of the third at St. Louis. Breaking ball, a good one in there for a strike. It's 1-2. Montreal, since getting Langston, has gone 11-4.
I think they're starting to believe, Dwayne, that they can be right there at the end.
This one fouled back. No, he didn't make contact. The ball gets away from Sasser and rolls into the dugout. So Sandberg, swinging at the high pitch, did not make contact as the ball got by Sasser. Let's take another look. It appeared for a moment he may have fouled the ball, but he made no contact. The ball off Sasser's mitt.
Mackey Sasser, not the defensive catcher that Gary Carter is, and right here it cost the Mets, so the Cubs get a break as the ball trickles into the dugout.
So a strikeout for Gooden, his 5th. And Sandberg winds up at first as Sasser had the ball hit off his mitt and then get by him. So the Cubs have the leadoff man aboard. It's only the second time that's happened tonight. The first time since Walton opened the game with a single. Andre Dawson, a line shot to short, step throw to first, and they throw it away. But the Mets get a good carob off the wall, and Mazzilli makes the pickup, so Sandberg must remain at first. Dawson smoked this pitch. Here it is.
And the Mets get a break. Howard Johnson, thinking that he can get a double play, throws the ball off the mark. Lee Mazzilli cannot get around Sandberg, but you see Lee, when he realized he couldn't get by Sandberg, he grabbed him. He wanted to make sure that Sandberg wasn't going to go to second. Fortunately for the Mets, it didn't go in the dugout or in the seats, and Sandberg remains at first.
1 on, 1 out for Damon Berryhill. Gooden with a toss to first.
Cubs really have to try to run Sandberg here because Berryhill is a good man for two. He's grounded into 6 double plays.
When Dawson hit that ball like a bullet. Again, Ryan back in. Sandberg 9 of 11 in the running department. 2 out of 2 against the Mets. Matter of fact, the Cubs are perfect running against New York this year. 8 of 8. Berryhill rolls it foul. Strike 1. Berryhill the hitter with McClendon on deck. Game in the 6th. Cubs have 3 hits and 2 walks off Gooden. And a strikeout and a pass ball, allowing Sandberg to reach. This one low and in. 1-1. The Mets open left center field for Berryhill. Wilson a step or 2 toward the left field line, and Dykstra playing Berryhill to pull the ball in center field. Strawberry a few steps toward the right field line. There goes Sandberg to pitch it on the ground to first. Mazzilli will make the play there, and that's the only one. Sandberg moves into second. He's there with 2 outs.
It's a good thing that Rhino was running because that would have been 2. He hit the ball very hard, but right at Lee Mazzilli as we take a look at Keith Hernandez, who's still about a month away from coming back every day in this lineup. Good stab by Mazzilli, keeping the ball in front of him, but the Cubs do have a man in scoring position.
Here's McClendon. Lloyd nothing out of 2, but he has a man in scoring position now. Lloyd takes it over, but too low. Ball 1. McClendon came up from Iowa. Belted a 3-run homer off Derek Lilliquist in his first at bat in a Cub uniform, and the Cubs have taken off since then. There's a strike. So the count is 1-1 on Lloyd McClendon. Lloyd out of Gary, Indiana.
Dwight Gooden does not give up a lot of long balls. Just 5 home runs this year in 98 innings.
Drive, towering fly ball down the left side. Wilson into foul territory and runs out of room. That was a towering foul ball. And McClendon is behind the ball in 2 strikes. Phillies and the Pirates are tied 3-3 in the top of the 6th at Pittsburgh. There's the National League board. Giants knocked off Atlanta 10-1 in the other 2 West Coast games, Cincinnati at San Diego and Houston at Los Angeles. The National League West, quite a race right now, as well as the East. The Cubs holding a half-game lead on Montreal, facing Dwight Gooden tonight and trailing by 2.
Pat Perry up and throwing in the bullpen for the Cubs.
1-2 bounce foul up the right side. So McClendon stays alive. There's Perry in the Cub bullpen. The bullpen situated beyond the outfield fences here. The Cubs in left and the Mets in right. Dykstra deposited his home run in the New York bullpen back in the 3rd. 1-2, chopper left side, deep, short, long throw for Johnson, not in time. Base hit for McClendon, and over to 3rd goes Sandberg. Howard Johnson got to the ball, but could not throw McClendon out, and the Cubs have their 4th hit.
There's a big difference between a good arm at 3rd base and a good arm at shortstop, and you see the difference right here. Howard Johnson, who throws the ball from the side, which is fine at 3rd, can't get enough on it to get McClendon at first base.
It brings up Curtis Wilkerson, who's walked twice tonight. Wilkerson batting .247. He goes down the left field side. Mookie Wilson will again chase over there, but it's out of play. Strike 1. Well, the Cubs would certainly like to chip away and at least get a run here as we play in the 6th inning. The infield hit by McClendon, keeping the inning alive and giving Wilkerson a chance.
Scott Sanderson with a tough inning ahead of him of Strawberry, Johnson, and Mazzilli.
Wilkerson now in the hole, 0-2 on the swing and a miss. Curtis playing third base tonight in the place of Vance Law against Gooden. The 0-2. Fly ball into left. Wilson goes back. He is there reaching up to make the catch and then retires the side. No runs, a hit. The Cubs leave 2. And we head into the bottom of the 6th. 2-0 New York. Bottom of the 6th inning coming up. 2-0 ball game. New York leading. And Scott Sanderson faces Darryl Strawberry to open the New York half the frame. And he misses outside, ball 1. Strawberry tonight has fouled the third and was called out on strikes back in the 4th inning. Sanderson got him on 3 pitches. He's hitting 150 against the Cubs this year, but always dangerous. He pops him up, foul ball, and it will carry out of play. The count is 1-1. Strawberry, then Howard Johnson, followed by Lee Mazzilli. Don Zimmer taking a look at that foul ball.
Wondering if his family would have a souvenir.
The 1-1. Well hit ball into deep left center. Smith on the run, and he makes the catch, falls down, and hangs on to it. Dwight Smith with great speed got over there and then found himself trying to put on the brakes to catch the ball. Did, and then fell down, but he held on.
It's always an adventure with Dwight Smith, but he seems to get the job done. And he got to that ball so quickly that as the ball started to tail away from him, he actually had to make an abrupt stop, made the catch, and then fell down.
Had it all away, he says.
Oh, that was easy. Let's watch it again. You can see, I think he's surprised when he gets to the spot a little quicker than he thought. Either that or the velocity knocked him down.
Here's Howard Johnson. Breaking ball down and in. Well, Smith playing that ball exactly the way they teach him. Go to where you think the ball's going to be. Don't coast on it. Go there, set up, and catch the ball. He just got there a little quicker than he thought he was going to get there. The 1-0 pitch. There's a strike, and the count is 1-1.
Cubs have beaten the Mets 5 out of the 9 times they've played this year. And the Cubs played the Mets very tough last year. In fact, I think the Mets brought out the best in the Cubs in 1988. And this year is proving a little more of the same.
1-1 the count. He fouls the breaking ball, so the count is 1-2. The Cubs came in here early last year and lost 3 out of 4, but very easily could have won 3 out of 4, and I think established, at least in their own minds, that they could play with this ball club. And now I don't think there's any doubt in their minds that they can play and be a big part of the National League East. Confidence, such a big part of this game. 1-2 the count. Talent's the other big part.
That you can't do without. A little confidence is one thing, but you've got to have the horses. And the Cubs have enough good players to stay in contention if that pitching staff stays together and if they avoid some major injuries.
Hot shot. Foul, so the count is still 1-2.
You know, the Montreal Expos in an enviable position, Dwayne, because they're the one club in the division that hasn't been decimated by injuries. And they certainly aren't running away with it. So that shows you the talent is pretty even. St. Louis, New York, the Cubs, Pittsburgh certainly has been devastated by the disabled list. But Montreal has stayed relatively intact. And with the addition of Langston, that suddenly becomes another team that's going to be right there, and the Cubs will see just how tough they are when they travel to Montreal after this series.
Cardinals have increased that lead. It's 4-0 St. Louis in the bottom of the third. A liner foul again by Howard Johnson. Johnson, in the final year of his contract, he'd like to be signed. He's making a little over $700,000 this year with the Mets.
I think he feels he is vastly underpaid when you look at some of the salaries that a lot of other guys are making around the league. William McGee, for one, at $1.3 million and $1.4 million over the next 2 years. He's a good player. I don't think he's twice as good as Howard Johnson.
High, towering fly ball. Dawson will come in a few steps for this one, and he makes the catch. Well, Howard Johnson had a good power year last year, and having an even better year this year. 15 home runs coming into this game, second in the league and fourth in the league in slugging percentage.
Rick Aguilera up and throwing in the bullpen.
2 outs, bases empty, and Lee Mazzilli will bat. Mazzilli 2 for 2 with a run batted in. Keep in mind that Gooden does not have a complete game this year. This is his 14th start. The pitch high, ball 1.
Seems almost amazing to me when you see how well he's throwing the ball tonight that he hasn't been able to complete a game. The Mets, as a pitching staff who had 22 shutouts last year, have only 1 this year. So although the staff is still mighty tough, for some reason they're having problems throwing complete games.
And now Sanderson is behind Mazzilli 2-0. Lee Mazzilli, with his 2 hits tonight, he is 5 out of 7 this year against Cub pitching, and is way ahead in the count now, 3-0. Zimmer and Cole looking on. There's ball 4. Mazzilli draws the second walk given up by Scott Sanderson. 2 outs in the 6th. Mazzilli walks, and it brings up Mookie Wilson. Wilson 0 for 2 on a couple fly balls tonight.
Left fielder Mookie
Sanderson due up second next inning, so it's conceivable that this would be it for him, and he'd love to get through this inning just down by 2 runs if in fact Don Zimmer does decide to go to the bench in the bullpen.
Now the switch hitting left fielder Wilson steps in. He's played all over the outfield for the Mets. And goes after this one, fouls it out of play. Strike 1. If it's close, Wilson's going to be swinging.
And Scott Sanderson so far has thrown him just exactly where you want to throw him. Keep the ball high and away, and Mookie will lift that fly ball to left or left center field for you. Get a little higher than that, and he usually swings through it.
0-1 the count. Breaking ball, and Sanderson drops that one over for a strike. 0-2 the count. Strawberry went out to left center. Johnson out on a high fly ball to right ahead of the walk to Mazzilli. Now the 0-2 to Mookie Wilson. Here it is. And another back off Sanderson's glove. Off balance throw. Not in time. Sanderson just couldn't find it. Just could not grab it. And then made an off balance throw. And whenever you see a pitcher do that, you hold your breath because you never know where the ball is going to wind up.
That's a play that Scotty should have made, and I think he's probably a little mad at himself because he should be out of this inning, and he has the ball hit off his glove. Mookie, with good speed, beats the play at first because of the off-balance throw. Scott had the first stab at it, couldn't corral it, and now he's got some trouble.
He has Mackie Sasser, who can be a tough hitter. He struck out twice tonight. Sasser 2 of 6 on the year against the Cubs with a run batted in. Sasser drove in the first New York run in last night's game. So Sanderson's in a spot he should not be in. And he's going to have to get Sasser to keep the Mets in check here at 2-0. Sasser, the number 8 hitter. Runners at first and second. Sanderson. As Berryhill go through the signs once more. Now he's ready. Sasser fouls it back and out of play. Strike one. This is the situation the Mets have Sasser for. They didn't necessarily get him for his defensive abilities. They got him because he can hit. You see Jose Martinez in the corner of the screen there, positioning the defense.
I think every manager around baseball would love to have a left-hand hitting catcher, if nothing else, than an occasional platoon player with a tough right-hander on the mound.
He's out in front of the breaking ball, and it's a weak roller foul. 2 strikes the count. A walk to Mazzilli, the infield hit by Mookie Wilson. Cubs have been out hit 6-4 tonight.
Scott has tied up Mackey Sasser in knots tonight. When he throws him a curveball, he's looking fastball. When he throws him the fastball, he's late on it, looking breaking ball. And so at least to this point, Scott has completely outguessed him. He's kept him out on his front foot, and he's been off balance most of the evening. Hopefully that trend will continue one more time.
The 0-2. Breaking ball a little wide. A ball and 2 strikes.
That was an example of a hitter fooled once again. Mackey Sasser realized he wasn't going to be able to pull the trigger, so he just thought he'd try to get a little lower than the ball.
Berryhill with a brief visit to the mound. There's Keith Hernandez out with that broken kneecap. First and second. Mets scored a run in the third, another run in the fourth, and that has been it in the scoring department. 1 ball, 2 strikes the count. Sasser hitting. Sanderson delivers, and Sasser takes a fastball just low and away. So the count is square at 2-2. Now Sasser's thinking up there. Will I see the breaking ball? 2-2. Sanderson goes into the stretch. Fastball 2-2, and he fouls it back. So the count holds right there. Sasser, born in Georgia, makes his home in Alabama now. He's 2-2 with Scott Sanderson. Scott again on 2-2. Breaking ball, he misses down and in. So he's gone to 3-2 with him, with Gooden waiting next. He's got the pitcher up next. Will he go breaking ball 3-2 with him?
I think if he goes with the breaking ball and throws it for a strike, he'll get him. The question is, how much confidence does he have in his ability to get it over in a very tough situation? He also could get him on the high away fastball, but he can't miss here.
The 3-2. Here it is. And he fouls it back. He tried to go with a high fastball, and Sasser stays alive. Well, he tried that. Now will he try the 3-2 breaking ball?
Well, Don Zimmer is going to probably tell him what he'd like him to try as he's walking very slowly out to the mound. And one thing about Don, he doesn't leave a lot of things to chance if he's got a definite idea.
He says, I want no more fastballs, he says. No more fastballs. So we will see something other than the fastball 3-2.
Well, I hope Mackey Sasser doesn't have a camera that's as close to Don Zimmer as the camera that Arnie Harris has. As he's telling him right now that he wants to see the off-speed pitch. And if Mackey's looking out at Don Zimmer and he saw Zim right there, I'd say you wait back and look for the hook.
Sim had a little comment for Doug Harvey.
Well, he's asking him, how's the ankle, Doug? You okay? Dwight Gooden is now being called back.
Yeah, they have
Jeff McKnight in the on-deck circle. This is a surprise.
There's Gooden back in the dugout.
I wonder,
Aguilera throwing.
I wonder if they've got him on some sort of pitch limit, because he's thrown 6 and he hasn't had all that much difficulty tonight. Interesting situation.
Here's the 3-2. And a foul ball. Out of play down the left side. So we'll try it again. Wilson at first and Mazzilli at second. There's Gooden now sitting in the New York dugout. Aguilera was throwing. Initially they had Gooden in the on-deck circle, but Jeff McKnight has moved up there now.
Maybe they'll let Gooden go back out there, but they want to give Don Zimmer something to think about with McKnight in the on-deck circle.
Here we go again. The 3-2 pitch on the way to Mackey Sasser. And a line drive into center field. Walton coming on to make the catch. And that retires the side. No runs, 1 hit. 2 left. We are through 6. Harry will be back in a moment with the score 2-0 New York.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. Now pitching.
Hello again, everybody. The Steve Stone and Dwayne Stats Harry Carey. Back at Shea Stadium as we go to the 7th. Rick Aguilera is the new pitcher. Magadan's playing first. Kevin Elster's playing short. And Howard Johnson shifts over to third base. Remember, Aguilera pitched 4 innings in the game that the Mets won that Gooden started in Chicago. Gooden was the winner. And Aguilera allowed 2 hits in the 4 innings he pitched, and he was brilliant. And that's what Davey Johnson's hoping he does here tonight. Good news, though, from the scoreboard. The Cardinals are leading Montreal 6-0 in the 4th. So even if the Mets hold this lead, the Cubs still will be in first place over Montreal.
Surprisingly, Dwight Gooden goes just 6 innings, gives up no runs on 4 hits, walks 2, strikes out 5. He was in command all the way. He had a rough 4th and a rough 6th inning, and maybe that contributed to Dave Johnson's chances here as far as going to the bullpen. He also has gone to his defensive lineup, so Aguilera comes in with a wonderful record. 2-1 and a spotless ERA of 0.92. He's on for the 20th time. 39 innings, 28 hits. He hasn't given up a homer this year. He's walked 9. He's struck out a whopping total of 46 in 39 innings. And the mist is starting to fall here in New York.
Here's Dunson, who fanned twice against Gooden. He's not sorry to see him leave. Here's Aguilera. Tall right hand to the first pitch, driven down the right field line. It's a foul ball. And Dunson returns to the plate.
Mitch Webster in the on-deck circle.
Donna, Chris, and Rich for Hampshire, Illinois are here. 27,278 paid here tonight. Total of 32,000 plus in attendance. The Mets are well over the million mark. The pitch. Swung and he fouled it back. 0-2 the count.
Aguilera, a hard-throwing right-hander with a very good breaking ball. Would be a starter for any other club in baseball. But he can't seem to crack the starting rotation for the Mets. He's 6'5", weighs 200 pounds out of San Gabriel, California.
Now the pitch. High fastball. When we were talking about Good not having any complete game, this is a good indication why. He pitches a shutout for 6 innings. And they have such wealth of pitching in the bullpen, they come under Aguilera to pitch the last 3. Sometimes a move like that might backfire. Crowd come out for the third time in a row. Dunston goes down swinging. KKK across the score sheet for Dunston.
That'll bring up Mitch Webster.
Webster batting for Sanderson.
Webster hitting .263 with 3 home runs, 13 RBIs. And he's 1 for 3 with an RBI as a pinch hitter. Now the rain's starting to come down a little bit harder.
One man out. Webster the hitter. Remember, the news follows the ball game. Swung in a minute. Baltimore leading the Yankees 1-0 in the 7th. Swung in a boy. This is a fine-looking young pitcher. Rick Aguilera.
The Mets had all kinds of patience with him last year when he struggled through arm problems. He's back now and throwing better than ever.
There's a drive. Deep right field. Strawberry on the run makes the catch. Strawberry, a fine play on Webster's line drive. To gone.
Darryl Strawberry has all the tools you need to be a superstar. Occasionally he doesn't show them. But right here, he shows you that he can go get him in right field.
2 men are gone here in the top of the 7th. The crowd racing for shelter. 2 out, nobody on. He bunts foul. Jerome Walton is 1 out of 3. 2-0. The Mets out in front. I think Howard Johnson taught Jerome Walton a little bit about how you have to play the game in the big league.
No doubt about that, Harry.
Strike called. 0-2 the count.
As Jerome was nonchalanting what looked like a single to right center field, Howard Johnson just kept on going and beat the throw at second.
0-2 the count. A high pump foul. Here comes Strawberry near the stands, out of play. You can see the rain coming down pretty good. 2 men out in the 7th.
I'm going to believe after they get through, if they do make it through this inning, we're going to see a rain delay.
If so, maybe we'll have the 9 o'clock news at 9 o'clock. Two men around, nobody on. The pitch to Walt. Ground ball up the middle. Nice play by Elster. And he throws him out. Fine play by Kevin Elster. 1-2-3, nothing across. We go in the bottom of the 7th. 2-0 Mets. Hello again, everybody. With Steve Stone, Harry Carey back at Shea Stadium, where the rains have come. The field has been covered, and we're going to have a little bit of a delay. Tough ball game, 2-0, the Mets leading. The Cubs have hit the ball pretty well, but they just won't fall for them.
Well, they knew that they had their work cut out for them. Going into this one again, Dwight Gooden at 17-3 lifetime. And Harry, Scott Sanderson threw well enough once again to probably come out winning this ball game. So far, it doesn't look that way, but we'll have to see what happens as we go along.
I think I held my microphone up. Did they hear what you said? Would you like to repeat it?
No, I think they did.
You know, I have never discovered a way in a baseball game to win without scoring at least one run. And that's a dilemma of Scott Sanderson. He got beat 1-0 by Jose De Leon and the Cardinals in his last start. And tonight he's losing 2-0 with the against the pitching of Dwight Gooden. And those are two pretty good pitchers he's been matched up against.
Well, sometimes you have to have pitching luck, and that depends on who you get in the draw. And Scott Sanderson hasn't gotten the most fortuitous draw to this point. when you go up against two of the best right-handers in baseball, you have to figure that your team has got to scratch out a couple of runs. So far for Sanderson, they haven't been able to do that. So Scott right now has lost one. He's on the hook in this one. And Rick Aguilera comes in. And Harry, you just don't lose a great deal when you go from Gooden to Aguilera, because his stuff is equally as good.
And, you know, they have another pitcher, and he's now on the active roster after being down at Tidewater all year long. And that's a kid named Wes. And they say he's as good-looking a left-hander as Aguilera is a right-hander.
We haven't seen Kevin McReynolds in this series. He's got some sore ribs. But when you figure that all the Mets will be healthy eventually, they have a formative group. However, when I talked to Al Harrison in the first trip in here to New York early in the season, he said to me that they were looking for a hitter. And I looked at Jeffries and I looked at McReynolds, and along with Hernandez, Carter, Strawberry, and it wouldn't seem that they needed a hitter. They had Howard Johnson, who'd hit 30 home runs probably. But he felt that they were a little short in that department, Harry. And when you look at their starting rotation right now, they've got 6 guys who could probably start anywhere in baseball. And I look for the Mets, if not immediately, certainly if they stay in the race toward the end, to trade one of their starting pitchers and get that big hitter they're looking for.
I'm just wondering, though, what team would give you a standout hitter for a pitcher?
Well, I think there's a lot of teams, Harry, if you make a package deal, a team that's eliminated toward the end of the year, if you could get an established starter, a guy like Rick Aguilera, for instance, or perhaps a David Cohn, who I don't know if they would part with. But certainly when you have the talent that they have, and I know they would probably like to deal Sid Fernandez. He's a man that was offered around to a few clubs. They offered Sid Fernandez to the San Diego Padres. They offered him to the Montreal Expos. Neither of those deals came to fruition. But he's the man that they're dangling because they know they can fill his spot in the rotation with David West, a hard-throwing left-hander. And they've got Rick Aguilera waiting in the wings in case somebody falters.
You know, I think through all this, through all the injuries that the Mets have had so far this year, it's the veteran ball players like Keith Hernandez and Gary Carter. All of a sudden, a guy that they've been trying to trade for the last couple of years, Lou is more important than ever, and that's Hojo Johnson. He's been the star of this ball club.
Everybody says that Howard Johnson is the Mets' most valuable player to this point. He's hit 15 home runs. Right now, it looks like he might make the All-Star team. And Harry, you're right. They have offered him a number of different places. However, they weren't about to give him away. They realized they had a very valuable commodity. And there's about 5 or 6 of these key Mets who are not signed. Howard Johnson is one of them. So Frank Cashin has his work cut out for him, because you never know what's going to happen in the offseason. You never know when a player will decide to test the free agent market. I think Howard Johnson right now at $700,000 for a third baseman who can hit 30 home runs has got to be about the biggest value in baseball.
No doubt about it. And he proved he can do a few other things. He's stolen 10 bases already. He's only been thrown out 3 times. He stretched a single into a double here tonight, which led to their second run. He's a good, hard-nosed ball player.
One thing he can't do is provide you with a Gold Glove defensively. However, when you look at his pluses, you see very few hitters who can hit from both sides of the plate, hit for power, and still run. I think if you try to count them down all over baseball, you might be able to count them on one hand. So he gives you a lot in that package at third base.
You know, the past history of the New York Mets is such that if I were another team listening to us, I'd be very, very careful about making a trade with the New York Mets. Somehow they always come out best. Look at when they gave 5 players to get McReynolds. A lot of people thought they gave too much, but it turned out they didn't give enough. And as you notice, with all the talk about trading Howard Johnson, they haven't been inclined to give him away. They've held on to him until they could get the deal they really want, the deal they're sure of. And that right now, with the way Johnson's playing, I would say that's a long way from coming about, because they must have more appreciation of his overall talent to the ball club now than they ever did before.
Well, the Mets do something that the Los Angeles Dodgers did, as you pointed out before, Harry, and that's the fact that they trade young players. They value their minor leaguers very high. The only time they've traded away a man who has become a star has been Kevin Mitchell. And Mitchell went to San Diego, didn't really work out there. He's become a star with the San Francisco Giants. When you look at the guys that they've traded away in the minor league system, those are the guys that didn't really come about. You know, Herman Winningham, the trade they made with the Montreal Expos. Herman Winningham and Mike Fitzgerald, Floyd Yeomans, and Hubie Brooks. Only Hubie Brooks was a player who really started at the major league level, but Hubie was an established player at the major league level before they traded him away. Where you run into trouble with the New York Mets is when you start taking guys from their minor league system, because they sit back, they evaluate their system, and they have some very good evaluators here. They figure the guys they want to keep in the minor leagues. They trade you the other guys that they tell you are going to be the stars.
Let me see. We had about 5 or 10 minutes to fill before the news comes on.
Do you have any good songs, you know?
Not a one. You know, this Mets ball club, Hernandez, everybody is looking forward to Hernandez and Carter returning to the lineup. They're at that danger age. You don't come back from injuries as severe as the injuries they've had at that advanced age, speaking of the baseball playing age, as easily when you're that age as you did when you were younger. And I think that might be the biggest problem they face as they look ahead to becoming as strong a contender as everybody thought they would be. I think this race is definitely a 4-team race, with the Cubs being the surprise, along with St. Louis, Montreal, and the Mets.
We've talked about it a number of times, Harry, and that's the fact that the Montreal Expos have avoided the injuries. And when you go through a 162-game schedule, it becomes a 24-man game. That's why they allow you to keep 24 guys, because you have to use your whole roster before it's over. Right now, Montreal in a great position, because if they get some injuries, you know, they're not running away with it right now. And if they have the same injuries that the Cubs, St. Louis, Pittsburgh, and New York has had, I think they're going to be in trouble. But the Cubs are going to see a healthy ball club when they go to Montreal next.
You know, I was listening to radio here in New York, and they have a station that sports 24 hours a day. And they have call-in shows and all that. I was amazed how many critical calls about Davy Johnson. I think he's a fantastic manager. Who in the world could criticize Johnson? And I can't help but think about him replacing Doc Gooden tonight. What if Aguilera ran into a bad inning, which could happen to anybody? I would hate to hear those shows tomorrow all day long.
I think Davy Johnson is a manager who is underrated, and I think he falls into the same situation as Pat Riley with the Lakers. You know, Harry, when you assemble a great team and everybody thinks you're supposed to win, then suddenly you don't get the acclaim you deserve as a manager. Tommy Lasorda went through the same thing in Los Angeles when he had those great ball clubs with Garvey and Say and Lopes and Russell and a great pitching staff. Tommy Lasorda was never appreciated as a good manager. The fact is that Davy Johnson has averaged 99 wins a year. When you get production like that from your manager, you have to feel the man has a lot of talent. Now here's a guy, Harry, who went through most of last season without a contract. He's a guy that it looked like had to win the World Series in order to get that contract. And Davy Johnson has had his team at or near the top every year he's been in management. And I got to believe that if the Mets ever decide to let him go for whatever the reason, he's going to have a job within a day.
It seems to me that the more stars you have on your ball club, the tougher the job of managing them. I'd much rather have been in the shoes of Don Zimmer with all guys from the minor league playing, and they played it incredibly good. You don't have any egos to handle. They're all, gee, they're so lucky to be playing in the major leagues. Maybe that's one of the reasons they did so well. But at any rate, the problems of managing a group of players like that are so much simpler than those when you have nothing but egos and star salaries, $2 million a year ball players. That's when managing a ball club is really tough. And I think Davy Johnson has passed the test with flying colors.
The most difficult thing in sports in the late 1980s and early 1990s is going to be motivating the player who's financially comfortable. Once you take away that incentive of making a living, then it comes down to motivation. It comes down to heart and determination and mental toughness. And you can scout tools all day long, but it's tough to scout the heart of a player. And I think, Harry, when these players are making guaranteed $2 million a year for 3 or 4 years, and that's what we've come to in this game, it's very difficult to decide who you're going to extend in the long-term basis. And when you do extend them for 3 or 4 years down the road and pay them that kind of money, when they don't have the pressure of making a living, you have got to decide who's going to go out there every day and give you 100%. And you'd be surprised. There's not a whole lot of guys that play like Andre Dawson and Ryan Sandberg game in and game out.
We're very lucky with those fellas, no doubt about that, and Rich Sutcliffe too. But the trick is, Steve, these guys are worth these contracts when you sign them to the contract. But the second or third year of a 5-year contract is you wonder, what in the world am I paying $2 million a year? This guy, he's only hitting 210 or 240. He's slow now where he used to be fast. I don't think if I were in baseball, I'd sign anybody to more than a 2-year contract.
The problem is that you run into a situation where if you don't give a guy a 3-year contract in certain situations, he decides to leave you. I think the Cubs learned a lesson with Ron Cey. When they got Ron Cey, he helped them win in 1984. There was no doubt he was a good ball player, but there was also no doubt, Harry, that through the length of his contract, you knew that toward the end, he wasn't going to be worth what you were paying him, because of age and attrition and injuries, and they pile up on you. So you have a lot of situations where you get guys, you extend them for 4 or 5 years, and I think the 5-year deal's going by the wayside. I think 3 years is as far as most people go out these days. Even then, you take a guy 35 years old, you sign him to a 3-year deal, what are you going to get in his last year? And that's a problem you have to be content with.
Of course, it's a problem that nobody in baseball looks forward to having, but they have it. There's no way of signing these guys unless you give them that kind of money. They're going to sign with somebody else, and then you're left with nobody. And I just wondered what would happen if all the clubs found themselves in a position that the Chicago Cubs found themselves this year, when their key players were forced to sit on the sideline. They brought up guys who weren't winning in the minor league. They put them out on the field, and they kept this team in the pennant drive and put them into first place where they are even now. And guys like DeCenzo and McClendon and all these guys come to mind. These are fellas weren't doing a good job in the AAA league, and they come up here and they won with them. One wonders what would happen if all teams did that.
I don't think for 1 minute that Don Zimmer doesn't appreciate the job that these youngsters did. You know, after the Cubs lost 2 in a row to St. Louis in Chicago, Don Zimmer had a meeting. And that meeting wasn't about the 2 losses and the fact that they didn't hit Jose De Leon or Joe McGrain. That meeting was to tell everybody in that room how proud that Don Zimmer was, and Jim Fry to a great extent, about the job they did, keeping this team afloat. You know, Harry, it's very easy to get down mentally. And it's not important if your manager thinks you can win, or if your fans think you can win, or if your broadcasters think you can win for that fact. The most important thing is if the team thinks they can win. And this ball club, through all the adversity they went through, with Andre Dawson going down, and if that wasn't enough, Mark Grace going down, Jerome Walton going down, and Rick Sutcliffe having periodic back problems, this team has stayed afloat. And Zim, recognizing the fact that baseball is a tough and emotional game, wanted to salute his guys and let them know that there was at least somebody in that locker room and somebody associated with Cubs baseball that appreciated the fact that these youngsters have gone above and beyond the call of duty. Slowly we're getting the players back, Harry, and they can't wait to get Mark Grace back. And I think when everybody is together, the cast is assembled that Don Zimmer took north, I think this club is going to stay right there if the pitchers hold out.
You know, thinking back, though, to spring training, was probably one of the worst spring trainings from the standpoint of the results. I think once we win 7 games in spring training, I know Don Zimmer and I know Jim Fry, just no more than just like the rest of us, feared what was going to happen once the season began. But once the season began, they began to win. And, you know, there's nothing that helps a team like winning. That's just like they talk about a ball player. He's got to get confident. How does he get confidence? He gets confidence, but through playing and through having success. That's where the confidence comes. But if he's not playing, he can't be confident. And so it's the never-ending problem. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg?
Well, I'm not sure about that, but I do know that the confidence that the youngsters gained in their short time in the major leagues this year probably will hold them in good stead through the rest of their careers. Take a guy like Dwight Smith, who admittedly did not have a good spring, and Don Zimmer said that this man was just not good enough to play Major League Baseball in spring training. And I credit Don Zimmer for saying that, Harry, because so many times you see a manager say, well, he just got caught up in the numbers game. That wasn't the case. It wasn't a numbers game. It was the case that Dwight Smith had a bad spring. But when he came back here, he didn't hang his head. He went down, he worked hard, he got back up here, and he was convinced that he could hit at the major league level. And he's also doing some things to help himself, like the couple of bunts that he laid down yesterday. And right now, Dwight Smith is a man who fought his way onto this ball club, got a break certainly with the injuries in the outfield. Right now, he's a man who's going to stay exactly where he is, right in that lineup, regardless of who comes back from the injuries.
You know, but let's talk about some of the others. Just think, during the 7-game winning streak that really got him going, a guy named Domingo Ramos was playing shortstop. A fellow like Joe Girardi was catching. Rick Ronas contributed to the victory. All guys who were playing at the minor league level and really weren't considered that good a prospect. Yet somehow they provided what it took to win a ball game. And they did it countless times, various individuals, no particular one or two.
Everybody talks about the major trade that Jim Fry made. That was certainly the Palmeiro trade that's now going to be known as the Williams trade. That brought the Cubs respectability in the pitching staff. But the little deals that Jim Fry made are some of the things that's helped make this ball club. He signed Vance Law as a free agent, and Vance Law has given this team a lot in the year and a half he's been here. He brought over Pat Perry. He got Domingo Ramos just for insurance, and he's played a big part in this one. So the guys that Jim Fry has acquired in non-major deals, guys you didn't hear a lot about, and perhaps a throw-in in that trade from Texas. Curtis Wilkerson has given him flexibility off the bench. I think that Jim Fry is to be applauded at this point for the way he's put together his ball club. He knows the deficiencies of this team. He knows when he looks out, he's going to find a lot of teams in baseball with a little more power than they have. And he might have felt in spring training, Harry, that this team was a year and a half away. I don't think he realized that Lloyd McClendon, who he got for Rolando Rooms in another little deal, would contribute the way he has, or that Dwight Smith would become the player he was, or that Doug DeCenzo would catch everything in center field over the course of a 5-week period. But he knew the ball club was on the right track because he was building it from strength, and that strength is always pitching.
80% of the game is pitching. I think we of the media perhaps are most guilty of this. The only things we talk about are home runs, batting average, runs batted in. That isn't what wins ball games. It's the success of these no names would indicate. It's a little thing that one player contributes when the other player does not contribute. What we call picking up the other man. And this maybe is something even the general managers of ball club lose track of in the importance of putting a ball team together. Everybody is so captivated by the magic mystery of batting average, home runs, and RBIs that they forget the little things that usually win ball games. The guy who made the good throw, the guy who made the good play, the guy who made the good catch, the guy who advanced the runner when it meant a ball game. These are things that win ball games, not necessarily batting averages.
If you've got 4 guys that hit 30 home runs, then you don't have to worry about the little things. But, Harry, we don't have those 4 30 home run men, so we have to do the little things. And right now, I think we're going to go and hear a little news.
That's exactly what we're going to do. We'll be back with you following the 9 o'clock news, which are not. And the New York Mets win it in a rain-abbreviated game, but an official game by the score of 2-0. The totals for the, first of all, the sure play of the game. And, of course, the home run by Lenny Dykstra in the 3rd inning over the right field wall. Watch the effort by Andre Dawson, who did everything he possibly could do trying to save this from being a home run. But a home run it was, and it was the sure play of the game. That's all the Mets really needed to win. The final total for the victorious Mets: 2 runs, 5 hits, no errors. Dwight Gooden, the winner. He now has won 8 and lost 2. But more than that, facing the Cubs, he now has won during his career 18 games while losing to them only 3 times. For the Cubs, no runs, 4 hits, no errors. Scott Sanderson, the loser, he now has won 6 and lost 5. With Steve Stone and Dwayne Statz, Harry Carey from Shea Stadium in New York, wishing you all a pleasant good morning or good evening. And the final score, the Mets 2 and the Cubs nothing. Tomorrow we're preempted by the network. We will be on radio only. That's it. The Mets have beaten the Chicago Cubs 2-0. So long, everybody. Be sure to stay with us for the Twilight Zone. Our next telecast will be Friday night at 6:30 when the Cubs take on the Montreal Expos right here on Channel 9. Our executive producer, director, Arnie Harris. The final score, the Mets 2, the Cubs nothing. Harry Carey from New York. So long, everybody.